Was it a one-way ticket to a world of trouble, or an absolute genius move that would be one of the best decisions I ever made? Well, only time would tell. Because this was a career crossroads I was currently facing. You see, for more than 15 months, I was working stupid hours in a job I didn't like. Actually, that's putting it politely. I hated it. I looked forward to Friday evening from the moment Monday morning started. Day after day after day, I wished the weeks away. This was no way to live life. In fact, it wasn't living life. But the problem was, this was how I was living. And it sucked. I was so stressed and frustrated, I couldn't think clearly that day, let alone work out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But one thing was for certain. I knew I didn't want this. I had done some saving before joining Deloitte, so I'd given myself a few months of grace before the money would be a real worry. The feeling that I needed to quit had started in the pit of my stomach. It had made itself known to me on a couple of occasions, but like many things, I had forced it down and ignored it on the whole. Like many things in life, suppressing and compartmentalizing feelings never really ends well, and this was no exception. The feeling just wouldn't go away. It kept nagging at me, raising its head when I least expected it, or quite frankly wanted it. It just wouldn't go away. So, after a few months of mental turmoil, I decided to do something about it. At this point, I didn't know really what it was, but I needed to start. So I wrote down how I was feeling. To say that this initial trickle of thoughts turned into an absolute torrent of feelings, of ambition and desire, would be an understatement. To cut a very long and boring story short, the outcome was I knew I needed to leave. Did I have an idea of what I wanted to do next? Well, vaguely. I had the grand notion of starting a business, but in reality, I couldn't decide what it was going to do. I just knew I couldn't carry on doing my job anymore. At this point, I would like to say that Deloitte, whom I was working for at the time, is a great company. I have many friends who love what they do there and in turn have thrived, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. Well, more accurately, the department and team I joined weren't quite right. This is always a bit of a lottery, which sometimes works out, but you know what? Sadly, this time it didn't. And that's when I made my decision. It was time to leave. Fast forward to being sat in my boss's office, fidgeting in an uncomfortably large chair that was placed adjacent to my boss's expansive desk. So, I'd like to tell you I'm leaving, I said to my boss while doing my best to hold down the nerves as we locked eye contact. I see you. I put it in writing too in case you need that or HR need it, I added while practically throwing an unsealed envelope seemingly across the room. Well, this is a surprise, my boss said with a forced smile. Where are you going? Did you receive a better offer elsewhere? I knew the question was coming, but that doesn't mean I was ready for it. No, not exactly, I replied, trying to remain calm and composed. So why are you leaving? He asked. Where are you going? I want to start a business. I'm going to do that full time, I responded quickly. To be honest, his face said it all. Like so many others, he was confused as to why I would leave the comfort and safety of a traditional full-time job, oh, and hello health benefits, for a life of uncertainty as a wannabe business owner. I wanted to explain to him that this job was making me unhappy, it was giving me severe Sunday evening blues, and I just didn't feel that I fitted. The desire to start a business was my ticket out of the current situation and a way of justifying it, but in reality, I didn't say any of that. Instead, I just kept my mouth shut. Why? Well, the truth of the matter is I didn't really have a plan that I could share. This was just something I had to do. I'd been thinking about it for a good while and could no longer tolerate it being only that, a thought. I needed to take action and give it a try. Sure, I told my parents that I had more of a plan than I really did, but this was to make sure that they didn't worry. I was already leaving a very good job in my mother's eyes. But beyond the tagline, I want to start a recruitment business taking newly qualified accountants from the big four accountancy firms and place them into smaller, more fulfilling roles, I had no idea what I was going to do. I really had no idea how I was going to go about running my own recruitment business. Regardless of all this uncertainty, I still quit my job anyway. Looking back, jumping ship from my full-time position with no firm backup plan in place is probably not the smartest thing. And I'm definitely not going to encourage you to march into your boss's office tomorrow or Monday or whenever the next day is and use the same exact tactic, unless you are prepared for similar bouts of doubt, worry, and a heap of questions from family. That said, I do strongly believe that taking the terrifying leap of faith into the complete unknown was one of the best career experiences. Yes, you could call it stupid, impulsive or brave, or possibly all three. At the very least, it was educational. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not. Could it benefit you? Sure. But you need to know what you're getting yourself into. For me, the weight of the world lifted the moment I quit, and for the first time in a very long time, I was content. Having spoken with friends who have done the same, the feeling was present for them too. Yes, there are money worries, but breaking free from the fear of a corporate job is truly liberating. But it is not for the faint-hearted, and that's why I've created this video. To help you understand what it's like to leave a job with no plan, hear how I felt, and learn from my somewhat terrifying but hugely exciting experience. So with that in mind, here are my 6 lessons I learned when leaving a job with nothing to go to. Number 1. Having a financial cushion calms the panic. If you had to guess, I'm sure you would say this is probably the absolute number 1 non-negotiable thing that you must have in place before you quit with no job, with no plan. And you would be right. Whatever happens, there will be bills that need to get paid, food that needs to be eaten, things that need to get done. You do not want to be in a situation where you cannot cover your living expenses. And it is important to really know exactly what you spend before you quit so you know how much you will need. Not just a vague, yeah, I probably need about X a month, because I promise you that you're lying to yourself. Having a financial cushion means you can give yourself the time to explore ideas without them having to make any money. And that's what I did. Being able to take the pressure off, from a financial perspective at least, allows you the space to play around with ideas. In my situation, I had saved up 6 months worth of expenses before I left. How much you need is up to you, but make sure you have this in place before you leave. Number 2, you don't need the approval of others. When I would tell people about my plan to quit a very stable and seemingly good job in favour of the uncertain business owner life, I so desperately wanted them to reassure me with statements like, "Oh wow, you're so brave," or "Good for you," or even a friendly and potential heartwarming, "Go get 'em." Unfortunately, that's not really what I got. Instead, I faced a lot of, "Wait, what? What are you doing?" kind of comments. In the end, it didn't really matter. I was the only one who needed to feel good about my decision, and in part, I did. Yes, we all naturally crave approval and reassurance from others every now and again, but trust me, you don't need it. At least, not as much as you think you do. Number 3, scary is exciting. There's a reason why people fork over hard-earned cash in order to see a horror movie or walk through a haunted house where somebody's guaranteed to jump out and leap at you. Well, simply put, there's a big part of being terrified that makes you want to run and cry, but the other part is somewhat thrilling. I actually don't like horror movies, so ignore me on that one. So in the first few days, okay, maybe weeks, after leaving my full-time gig, I'd sit down at my computer and feel totally overwhelmed. Every day was a battle to try and scrounge up work and at least take one step in the right direction. But at the same time, I felt absolutely exhilarated. I had no idea what was coming next, and that actually made me surprisingly motivated and optimistic. It was one of the most frustrating, nauseating, and anxiety-inducing times in my life, but it was also one of the most exciting. Number 4 is you never know until you try. Now, I hate to sound cheesy, although I'm perfectly comfortable with doing that, but this sentiment really does ring true. You have no idea what you're capable of until you push yourself to try it. That's what led me to my mantra of people are capable of more than they realise, because you think it's impossible, well, until it happens. I'll be honest, it would be easy to slag off the work and blame others for the misery I was experiencing, but that's simply not right. It was just the wrong place at the wrong time. And I came to realise that. Fundamentally, I didn't really feel fulfilled by my work. However, it is amazing what we put up with if we really have to. There was a part of me that was worried this was what the rest of my life would be like, and that freaked the fuck out of me. It sounds silly, but I believed that I was meant for more, and more would never materialise if I stayed doing what I was doing. Fast forward to now, and I've experienced and accomplished things that I never thought were possible. And that's why I keep reminding myself to this day, none of it would have happened if I'd stayed with the safe route. Number 5 is your career really doesn't define you. This is something I believe strongly in. I don't ever want my job to define me. Well, to be honest, I don't really know where that comes from, but it runs through every vein in my body. To the extent my friends even now don't really know what I do, and I'm comfortable with that. They just know me as Brendan. The chap who loves to do silly endurance events, drinks coffee, buys bicycle wheels and doesn't ride them, and is always up for a bit of stinky chat. They don't necessarily know that I have a serious leadership position. It's not about hiding it, it's just not important to us. It is easy to let our careers define us, but it is also super important to remember that your job isn't who you are. It's what you do. As the Muse managing editor Jenny Mayer explained in her article not so long ago about being laid off, your position definitely adds to your life, but it doesn't make up the entirety of it. I mean, when I left my job, I felt the need to justify my decision and clarify every last detail until people were literally snoring in front of me. Well, hopefully that didn't happen too often, but yeah, probably. There was this immense need to explain my employment situation in order to give myself purpose and an identity, but it turns out that that's not really the case. All of that pressure to define myself using my career was totally self-imposed. In fact, most people honestly didn't care if I was a dog walker or a hairdresser, although I'm not sure I'd do very well. Although above anything else, they were most likely just wondering what it's like not to have to go to work on a Monday morning. Now, number 6 is your savings will deplete, and that is scary. This one goes into the Captain Obvious box, I know, but don't underestimate the effect it will have on you. Even when you know you have enough money, it doesn't stop you from checking your bank account and inhaling sharply at each month as it goes down. It sucks. I'd love to say, don't worry about it, you've got the money, but that wouldn't be representative of my eyebrows shooting up every time I looked at my bank balance. Instead, I focus on trying to win work and pick up a couple of days consultancy work, decluttering the flat, and sold some stuff on eBay to give my account a bit of a boost and sometimes lessen the panic. I really didn't need to do this, but this is a process, and I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers as it's a learning curve, but you do need to do what you need to do. So, if you need to pick up some paid work here and there, and it puts your mind at ease, then do it. Just don't go back to a full-time role if you don't want to, and have the money not to, because that would defeat the object of leaving in the first place. I mean, quite frankly, leaving a very stable job with nothing to go to was undoubtedly one of the scariest decisions I've ever made, but was also one of the most fulfilling. Even though I had my knees shaking and my palms sweating, I'm glad I did it. It's worked out well so far, and I've managed to learn a lot along the way. So if you're contemplating taking your own leap of faith anytime soon, I hope these lessons encourage you and help you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And in those moments when all you feel is sheer panic, well, reach out to me in the comment section below. I might not be able to stop your knees from shaking or give you the undoubted certainty you need, but I can certainly tell you what it's like when you do. And that's it for today. If you like this video, I would highly recommend this one here, where I talk about should you do what you love as a job. I mean, particularly pertinent bearing in mind what we've just been through. I think you'll also find it super interesting. But with that, have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.